Hi there, thanks for joining me. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa at Critters'n Ink Designs in Ontario. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to share with you my May swap, which is an embossed-resist technique. That's a mouthful, right? So to do this, we emboss. I just did white on white, and then we're going to add some color, and that's the resist part, and so the color will just go on to the cardstock. So to do that, I used the Wild Rose background stamp. It's a red rubber stamp. I'll show it to you in a second. I've got it already on my Stamparatus. And for my sentiments, I used the Elegantly Said stamp set, and I chose a couple of different ones for my swaps, but today I'll be using Wishing You a Wonderful Day. There's just so many great sentiments in this one stamp set. Plus you have this little lacy decorative element here and a couple of flowers, and then this beautiful corner. Well, I'll have to do something with that. And then this looks almost like a half a butterfly. It's very cute. All right, let's get started. This isn't going to be a long video. I actually just tried to squeak this out because I've sent out my swaps and I've sent out my some kits to my regular customers for a make and take. So if you would like a make and take, please let me know. And if you would like to have a catalog, either delivered if you're local, delivered to you, or popped in the mail, I'd be more than happy to do that for you. So just let me know, either at critters'nink@gmail.com or through my website. You can actually, there's a contact me button on my blog. So that would be great. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to place just a piece of basic white. And so what I have here, if you're not familiar with the Stamparatus is a hinged stamping tool, which allows you to set your cardstock in, and you can either magnet it in place, or what I've done is I've taken a piece of quilting template and just cut a piece of, I've basically just cut a hole in it the same size as a piece of cardstock. So this hole is actually 4 by 5 1/4, so that this just sits right in there. And if I have to restamp, which sometimes you do if it doesn't come out nice and dark, sometimes you do have to redo it. And I've just taped it into place on my grid, my padded grid. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that back on there. And I'm just going to put some tape in there so that it doesn't shift around, because once I get my paper set, I don't want my background shifting around, because if I have to go over it again, I don't want to have some shading, which you could have. Okay, so that's nice and firm in there. I'm just going to leave that in there. Now I'm going to take my Versamark. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my embossing buddy. Now, Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell these embossing buddies anymore. We're hoping that they're going to bring them back. Every so often I put a note to Stampin' Up! Saying, you know, could you bring these things back? Because what it does is it eliminates static on your cardstock so that you don't end up with embossing powder where you don't want it. So I'm going to take my Versamark ink, which is a clear, very sticky ink. And you can use it for a lot of different things, but today we're going to use it for applying embossing powder. And embossing powder comes in different colors. Stampin' Up! Has it in clear, white, white glimmer, black, and I can't remember what else. I think that might be it. I'll have a look. So I've got this completely covered with Versamark ink. I want to make sure this isn't going to move when I bring down my stamp, because I know that it is going to pick up the cardstock. It's going to stick to the cardstock. So I want to make sure that it has a really good press on there, because I want the ink to really be able to be sticky to pick up my embossing powder when I, yeah, so you can see here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the lighting in here is not the greatest, but in here, right here, it didn't stamp that great. So I'm going to pop it back in. And I'm going to re-ink it. And it was mostly up here where I didn't get the best imprint. So I'm really going to concentrate on that area, make sure there's a ton of ink there. Okay, and I'm just going to lay this back down. I just want to make sure that that is where I need it to be. Normally you don't have to press hard, but for some reason with this background stamp, I found that it was a little finicky and I had to really give it a little bit of extra, excuse me, a little bit extra love there. Okay, so I'm going to pop it up. Now it's better. Okay, so I'm going to get that out of the way, and I'm going to grab my clear embossing powder. Now the embossing powder comes in little pots, but I got these little dishes at Walmart because I found with the pots, you know, sometimes I had embossing powder all over the place. This just works better for me. So you pour it on generously, because you are going to shake it off, and then after we're going to give it a bit of a jolt and get the excess off. And you just want to make sure that you have everything covered that should be covered. So even if you go over it a couple times, it doesn't matter. Most of it goes right back into the dish anyway. So there's a little spot right there. Could use a little bit more. And we'll just see, do I have to get rid of any? Now I have a little spot right here where there shouldn't be any, but there, most of it came off. And you can just grab a little paintbrush and give it a little brush off. So that's looking pretty darn good. So I'm going to put the lid back on here. I don't want to get any heat from the heat tool onto my embossing powder, because it will melt. All right, so I'm going to let this warm up. Sorry about the noise. And now I'm just going to start warming it up. So I don't know if you can see it warming up. I'm just going to put a light on. Maybe that'll help. I don't know if you can see it actually starting to change. Now you do want to keep the heat tool moving, because you don't want to burn your paper or warp it. Okay, there, that's looking pretty good. Just let it cool off for a couple of seconds. And so to make this card, you will also need your card base, which is 5.5 by 8.5, and I've scored it at 4.25. And this is going to be our card base. And then we need a mat. Now this mat is 5 by, 5.25 by 4. And that is going to go there. And then we're going to trim the embossed piece down to 3.75 by 5. And then that will sit on top of here. And then we have another piece of basic white for the inside, which is 4 by 5.25. Okay, and that will go on the inside there. And then we also need a piece of scrap of the white. And I use the pale papaya, which is one of the new in colors, as well as the basic gray for my colors. So I have a piece of the whisper white and a piece of the basic gray scraps. And I just punch them out using the Label Me Lovely punch, but you can use whichever punch you have to make your sentiment, for your sentiment. Okay, so let's get this stuff out of the way, and we're going to color our front of our card. So for this one, because I'm using pale papaya as my card base, I decided I was going to do pale papaya as my color for my resist part. So I'm using the Stampin' Up blending brushes, but you can use a sponge. If this is what you have, you can use a sponge, or you can also use the little, oh my goodness, what do you call these things? What do you call these things? I can't remember. Let's just look it up. I don't know. I think COVID has destroyed my brain. I can't remember the names of things or the names of people either, for that matter. Sponge daubers. So the little sponge daubers, you get a package of 5 for $7 Canadian. And then the sponges actually have been retired, unfortunately. But if you do have these from before, you can absolutely use that. Or the blending brushes, you get 3 for $16.25 Canadian. And they're amazing. I love the new Stampin' Up ones. They're so soft. I might even get some just for my makeup. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink up my brush. And it's the same technique whether you're using daubers or whether you're using this sponge. You're going to ink it up. And you're going to start off, don't start directly onto your embossed sheet. You want to start off to the side and then just bring it in. And you just get a nicer look. Now start with a light hand, because you can always add more ink, but boy oh boy, you cannot get it off. If you go too heavy, you can always add more if you need to, but you certainly can't take it off once it's on there. So start with a light hand, and then if you feel that you'd like a little bit more color, like here I think it's a little bit dark, so when I trim, I'll probably trim a little bit more on this side as opposed to all the way around. Isn't that pretty? I just love this color. I love the color. I don't love papaya. Whoops. But I do like this color. There. Do I want a little bit more? Yeah, maybe over here. Okay, so you can see here that the ink saturates the paper, but obviously it just sits on top of the embossed part. So what we need to do now is take a soft cloth. These are just those micro cloths that you can get at Canadian Tire or at the dollar store. And you're going to just buff off the ink off of the embossed part. And you can see the difference where I've rubbed it off and where it's still sitting on the ink, on the embossed. So this is really white. This is not really white. So don't be afraid to give it a little bit of elbow grease. You just really want that off of there. See how it's picking up the color? When I was doing these for my swaps, when I was turning the paper around, I did mine in green and I had green fingers everywhere. Whoops. I keep bending that one corner. Poor thing. There. Okay. So now I'm going to trim it. And I'm going to take my Stampin' Trimmer. That's my new one is here. I'm going to trim this down to 3 3/4 by 5. So 3 3/4. Now I want to get, this is just a little bit, I think I'm going to take just a smidgen off of both sides because I did kind of damage that one little corner. And this is why I don't trim it until I'm finished, because sometimes you do kind of mangle it just a little bit. So I want this at 3 3/4. Make sure it's straight. By, what did I say? 3 3/4 by 5. So again, I'm just going to take 1/8 of an inch off each side here. By 5. You could pre-trim it and then just color it, but I like to, sometimes you get a little bit darker on the edges, so I like to do it after I've done the coloring. And so now we can go ahead and start. That's all there is to it. That's how easy this is. It's a little time consuming to do the heat embossing part of it, but it's actually so easy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this to my gray. Now in the kits that I sent out for the make and take, I actually sent out these little mini glue dots. Now mini glue dots come like this in the kits that are now available online or in the paper pumpkin. So I save mine because I actually love my liquid glue and my snail, my Stampin' Seal. I really love this too. But in the kit, just in case you didn't have any glue, this is what I sent, a strip of these. So these just pop off. Whoops. These just pop off. And you just use them like glue dots, because that's what they are. I usually use tweezers. It's just easier for me because I have longer nails. So yeah, if you look on the Stampin' Up website, they also now have all-inclusive little kits. And in the kit, you get any adhesives that you need for that project, as well as your stamps, ink, and all the parts for the cards, and an acrylic block to put the stamps on so that you can actually maneuver with the stamps. And the stamps are the photopolymer, which are the clear ones. There. So I'm going to center this. Beautiful. And then this is going to go on here. Now, if you do have a tape runner like the Stampin' Seal, you can just apply that onto here. And if you don't have some, but you would like some, certainly feel free to go to Critters'nink.com, and if you want to place an order. Oh, shoot. You know what I did? Let's get this off of here before it seals completely. I forgot to put my ribbon on there. Oh, boy. Whew. Saved. I'm glad I caught that. If that had sat there much longer, there's not a chance you would have gotten that off of there in one piece. Okay, so I forgot my ribbon. Now, where did I put my ribbon? Just, you know, COVID head. I can't remember where I put anything. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Okay, so in the kits, if you got the papaya and the basic gray, I included basic gray ribbon. Unfortunately, I'm out of the basic gray. I have to reorder more. But what we can use, I'm just going to put this over here so I don't get anything on it. What you can use, if you have this white, the Whisper White ribbon, and you have alcohol markers, I'm going to use the Smoky Slate. I don't know if I'll use light or dark. I think I'll use the dark. Is this dark? Yeah. Dark Smoky Slate. So what I'm going to do, and you can use this technique with any alcohol markers and any white of the white ribbons. And it's permanent. It takes a few seconds for it to dry. And is that going to be wide enough to go all the way around? A little bit more. And you can also use this technique on the enamel dots. If you have the white pearls or the clear crystal dots, you can also use this technique to color your dots to match your project. If you didn't have the embellishments to match your project, you can go ahead and just color them with your alcohol markers. And the Stampin' Blends come in a set of two always, light and dark together, and that makes for a better blend. Okay, so now I can put this on here. I'm glad I went with the darker one. I think the light would have been too light. And then I'm going to need another little piece for my ribbon part here. So I'm just gonna alcohol ink that up. That's probably big enough. And that's how simple that is. I mean, holy smokes. There. So I'm just going to use a couple glue dots. So I wanted to show you the other glue dots, how they come. So they come in a little box like this, and they're on a roll, and they're very handy to have. So I'm just going to grab a glue dot here. And I'm going to fold this over so that it sort of sticks to itself. I'll just grab another glue dot. And that's going to go here. All right, so now for our sentiment. Okay, we don't need that anymore. We'll get rid of that. For our sentiment, I punched out a piece in the basic gray, and also, where did my little piece go? In the white. Okay, now, if you're fairly new to stamping, one of the first things that you should really pick up on is you want to do your stamping before you glue anything, because if you glue it and then you stamp it and mess it up, it's kind of a pain to try and pick it out without damaging the card. And to try and pick it out and not damage your card. So I think this time, I think I'm going to use this sentiment. All the things you do are simply amazing. Now I haven't used that stamp yet, so I have to put the label on it, and I'm just going to pop the backing off the label. And I'm going to find the stamp. And peel the backing off the stamp here. And I'm just going to line this up with my label. And peel it off, and there you have your cling stamp ready to go. Okay, and I'm going to do, will I do it in the papaya or will I do it in the smoky slate? Smoky slate or basic gray? What do I have here? Smoky slate. So let's just see. Now, the first time you use a stamp, I usually stamp it off a couple times just to get it sort of used to being used, because there might be a little bit of a sediment on it from manufacturing. And you can see here that I managed to get ink around the sides of my stamp. And you really don't want to do that, because that will, if you ever shift a little, it's going to create like a halo, which you do not want on your card. I'm just going to give that a quick clean on my chamois. And try that again. And I'm going to see if I want the pale papaya. Yeah, actually that looks nice. I'm going to do one in the gray and see how I feel about that. So I'll do one in the smoky slate and see which one I like better. Lay it on the card and see what we think. I'm gravitating towards this one, so I think that's what we'll do. Close this before I get ink on everything. Okay, so now to make the shadow effect for our sentiment, I'm just going to take my punch and I'm going to cut it right down the middle here. I'm going to take my Stampin' Seal and just put a strip right there and line up my edges. I'll just try and keep it sort of even on both sides. There. That looks pretty darn good. Okay, so now I'm going to put dimensionals in there. Grab some dimensionals here. The dimensionals are little foam kind of risers. Well, they give dimension. I guess that's why they're called dimensionals. So you just peel them off of here, place them where you want them, and then peel the backing off when you're ready to use them. Okay, and that's going to go right there. And then last but not least, we're going to use some bling. But I think I'm going to use, I've got the metallic pearls there and I have the silver here. So I think I'm going to use those. And you can find these in the embellishment section of the catalog. That one there. Usually I just put one, but I think I'm just going to put 3 today. Just feeling a little bit blingy. And there we are. That's how simple that card is. Now on the inside of the card, I'm taking the flower from the Elegantly Said. I'm just using this little flower here. And I'm going to ink it up with, again, decisions. Do I want to use the gray or do I want to use the pale papaya? I think you know what? We'll do both and then we'll decide. Okay, so I have a piece of basic white cardstock here. And I'm going to ink up my flower. Pop it in the corner. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not knocking me over. Let's try it with the gray. Just going to give it a little clean with my chamois. Now this chamois looks pretty bad, but actually I wash the ink out of it every day. It stains it, but it's still clean. If you were to rinse it right now, you wouldn't see no ink would come out of it. You just wash it in your kitchen sink. And okay, I'm going to try it with the gray. Oh, you know what? Let's try both together. And just shift it over a little bit. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I'm going to keep that. I like that. Okay, and so that's going to go. I'm just going to let this dry for a second. And I'm going to pop that on the inside of the card. And just get that centered in there. There, and there's our card. It's quick and easy. I hope you've enjoyed this little demo. And if you have any questions about any of the products that I've used, I will list the products below, and they're also available on my blog as well as the instructions with the dimensions of all the paper. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, or if you have questions trying to place an order for some of the products that you see today, I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day and enjoy the sunshine. Finally, spring and summer are here. Bye for now.